Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Anxious Lad podcast. Joining me in the virtual studio tonight is Adam Oliver. Adam, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Awesome, man. I'm doing really well. Now, thanks a million for taking the time to come and speak to me this evening. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all.
So, guys, Adam is the founder, creator, and the genius and rock behind Man Club, a peer support group in the UK, up in Durham. That they use different group activities to try and get guys talking, get lads talking about their mental health and stuff. So it's, I have to say, it's incredible some of the work you're doing, mate. It really is. Obviously, we've been having conversations back and forth on Messenger. I think we're part of a few different groups on Facebook. It's kind of how we met. And when I heard about Man Club and I started following you then. That sounds weird when I started following you. but I like the group and looking at the content you're putting up and the stuff that you're doing with the group and everything else. I think I said this to you in a call the other day. When I see guys like you doing that, I have to jump on them and right, what's this about? Where's your story? What's it all about? So it's seeing the posts that go up in the obviously the lads group, the private group element of it, and the support and how everyone kind of wraps their arms around each other. It's just phenomenal, buddy. It really is. So before we go on, I need to take my hat off to you and say well done for starting.
Thanks a lot.
It's absolutely incredible, mate.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers.
So look, I guess for everybody listening, and for anyone who doesn't know what Man Club is, do you want to give a brief overview of what Man Club is before we get into its inception and where it came from and why, I guess?
Yeah, of course. Man Club was started in October last year. I was sat in the bar in me home. I've got a bar in the back of the house where I sit and socialise and have a bit chill out time and stuff. And this thing kept on coming to me like there's nothing in the local area at all for men to speak openly, to like engage. When I grew up, there was like lots of like groups of lads playing football, and Sunday league football was big, and I just thought I need to do something to get the like lads together. Initially, I thought it would just be like a small group, mainly my friends, but within a few weeks, there was like 500 people on the group, and we've got weekly football, we've got weekly badminton, we do brew and butty mornings and group walks and pub quizzes, and the list's endless to where we're going. We're doing paddleboarding and stuff. It's quite ridiculous how far we've come in such a short space of time. But on the back of that, we've got counsellors, East Durham Veterans Trust, who obviously you know about, Matt, from our previous conversations. But East Durham Veterans Trust have put their heads on the line and said that they're going to help me out through a community resilience program. So it's astronomical where we've gone in like 5 months.
That's amazing, mate. It really is. And it's funny, like you were saying even yesterday, you kind of didn't expect it to just explode in the way that it did. What's that been like, I guess, to kind of wrap your head around? Does it still feel a bit surreal, or are you just running with it now? And
at the minute, doing stuff like the podcast is a bit surreal. We've had like local newspapers and stuff interviewing me, and that is quite surreal. I think one of the most surreal moments I've had, and I've just had to run with that, was when the local college contacted me to start doing some work with them. But it's just a case of like stuff like this I'm really passionate about, as you know. I'm really passionate about men talking. You don't necessarily have to have a mental health issue, be diagnosed with something to be able to come and talk. And I think that's the main thing. It's prevention better than cure in a sense. And
absolutely.
Me now, I keep saying to Catherine, my wife, like we just have to, like I just have to run with this. I've got 3 lads helping me, and we're just running with it and going. And there's no trip up to us really, to be honest, because there'll always be someone who needs that help and who needs that assistance, and I'm always happy enough to give someone that support.
That's brilliant. And I love what you said there actually about you don't have to have a diagnosed mental health issue or problem or whatever. You just come and have a chat and open up. And I think that's where we need to get to as a collective of men, isn't it? To get that message across, because for you and me, it's when it hit rock, and I'll let you kind of tell your story in a minute,
Yeah.
but you're going to hopefully you'll kind of agree with this element of, but from both of our perspectives, and for a lot of the guys that I interview on the show, and even the counselors and psychologists and stuff that were on previously, lads only start talking when they've hit that rock bottom moment, when it's too late or nearly too late. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't seem to wrap their head around the fact that actually, if you just look after your mental health, if you just have a conversation with somebody as it's getting there, or if you're having a bad day, or you're going through a rough time, whether it's career, stress, relationships, marriage, kids, whatever.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Rather than letting it kind of snowball to a point then where, unfortunately for a lot of men, it only ends one way.
That's the bitter end.
Yeah. So talk to me. So tell the guys and talk me through your story. What was the reasoning then, I guess, behind Man Club? Why, where what was the beginning, I guess, for you in getting this done?
So I left the British Army in 2012. I'd say I always went through like anxiety. I talk to a lot of people now, and they say they will sometimes walk past like a cafe or a pub and it's full and they won't go in. And I've always been like that. Like I've always been, I'm quite outgoing, as you know, like I'm quite outgoing. And people look at me and think, Aidan's got anxiety, and I do, believe it or not, I do. But I did suffer. I met my wife, Catherine, in 2018, and I couldn't have been happier. Things were great. We moved into the same street as where my parents live. I had a really good upbringing with my family. And when COVID hit, there was some serious arguments between families and stuff. And I come from a really, really close family. And it went for Christmas of 2020 when I didn't speak to my family throughout the whole of Christmas. And it was heartbreaking. My birthday was on Boxing Day, and I sat and I drank all day. I've got a thing on Boxing Day where I like to sit and put my football bets on and have a few beers and have a chat and have a few of my friends around for a chat and a couple of drinks and a laugh. And it got to later on in the day and I felt rock bottom, and I thought, right, this is it. And I took the dog for a walk, and I had the ambition to hang myself with a dog lead. We've got a place around where we live, the old railway lines, and I was walking down there, pitch black, absolutely pissing down the rain, and I thought, this is it. And something just came to me all of a sudden, dawned, and I went on and I called crisis, NHS crisis line. That was a massive, massive turning point for me. You think that you hit rock bottom, and that for me was beyond rock bottom. I'd had rock bottom and then a layer of shit and then me. That's how it felt. I went home, I was in tears. I've always been quite a heart on my sleeve type person. I'm not afraid to show my emotion. If something upsets me or makes me cry, I can be sat watching Britain's Got Talent or Ant and Dec Saturday night gateway on a Saturday night, and I will cry. I'm quite open. A few of the lads laugh because they say you're quite masculine, but you cry, and I'm I am quite open about it. But I went home, and that, that was a turning point, and I contacted a lad called Andrew Camus, who runs East Down Veterans Trust, and he was my shining star, to be honest. He got me straight on a counselling team within a matter of weeks. I got put onto a company called Anxious Minds in Newcastle, and a counsellor called Russ, and I began counselling through them. And to be honest, I really, at some point, I thought, I'm not going to turn this around. I'm not. Having Russ on the end of my phone, on the end of the phone every week, telling me he's proud of me and you're doing well. And I didn't until I looked back. It was like coming up to the week of my wedding, and I looked back and I thought, like, fuck me, look how far you've come. It was unreal, absolutely unreal to think that you were gonna, like, I was gonna do something like that to take my own life. But like you say, it's some lads get that far and they have nowhere to go. They didn't have that epiphany. You to say that I didn't have that last minute click of thought to think, don't do this, you're better than this, you can work through this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So fast forwarding on, obviously Man Club started, and then over Christmas this year, I went through a bit of a hard time. Catherine, my wife, started saying, like, you need to go and speak to someone. You seem like you're in a bad place again. And I brushed it off. If I'm honest, Matt, I thought I failed. If I went back to counselling, if I went to talk to someone again, I thought I'd failed. I enjoy having a beer. I enjoy having a couple of drinks on a weekend. I'm quite strict with myself during the week. And I do dry January, and I'm so stubborn with myself. So it's like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm having a month off the drink, or I'm going to run like 3 miles a day for the month, and I will do it. And I'm that stubborn and stuck up with myself. I will get through it, and I will do it. And dry January hit, and I'd had all these issues what my wife had been saying, you need to go and talk to someone about, when normally I'd have 4 cans, I'd go and have a couple of Guinness sat in my bar in the house, or sat watching the football, and I didn't have that hideaway, that get out. And I thought, like, fuck me, you are alone with this. You're like, and felt like 2 different people. So one person wanted to, like, fight the demons, fight through everything, and the other person just wanted to crack and prove the other part was wrong. And I was laying in bed one night, and I was like, that's when I thought, I was laying there and I was thinking, like, your kids can do better. Your kids can have a better dad. Like, your wife can have a better husband. Like, your parents can have a better son. And them suicidal thoughts come back again. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, like, this is fucking bad. Like, really bad. And luckily, then I had Man Club, and I put a post on my own peer support group page, and the lads sort of wrapped their arms around me, and I went back into counselling with East End Veterans with a girl called Bonnie, who's absolutely fantastic. And went back in, and within like a week and a half, I was gone from being even worse when I was going to commit suicide with my dog's lead to being on top of the world. So that's twice in like 2 years where I could have ended it, and my wife could have been a widow, my kids could have not had a dad, and my parents could not have a son. And I managed to turn it around and sort of save my own life and get myself back in the game. And here we are today, even better, happier and stronger than ever, I think.
That's incredible, mate. It really is. And I guess we need to give a shout out, just while I think of it as well, for the groups out there like Crisis, like Samaritans, those kind of crisis centres that you can call, that are manned 24/7, that are there, and I've kind of had a conversation with guys before on the show, and people kind of think, at that time when you're in that place and in that dark space in your head, and you always think, there's nobody to talk to, I don't have anyone to open up to, nobody will understand. Those places have somebody there for you to talk to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic.
And the work that they do, I think, almost goes brushed under the carpet sometimes. They don't get the recognition they need or they deserve. Do you know what I mean? I had one of the guests I had in the show works for Samaritans, so he deals with these kind of crisis calls on a weekly basis. So I think a big shout out needs to be given to those guys for
100%.
for doing what they do, and for being able to pick up the phone and answer the call that you made that night. Do you know what I mean? I think it's phenomenal. I think I also need to say as well, for you, for making that call is absolutely incredible. For having
that's half the battle, obviously, isn't it? It's once you can make that call, and I can guarantee to anyone who listens to your podcast or anyone who ever struggles that if you make that call, they will save your life.
Absolutely.
100%, they will save your life.
Yeah.
I've got through work, I get an upgraded phone quite a lot, and the first number I put into that new phone is crisis every time,
Brilliant.
every single time.
And what do you think was it then? So like you, because like me, right? I kind of, when you and I had the conversation, and the listeners and anyone who follows me on social media and stuff will know my story. I came very close. I had a plan. I had it picked out. I knew exactly what I was going to do. There was very deep reasoning for how, for the method, I guess, in which I chose. And I spoke about it on a post a few weeks ago. So I went into the council like that as well. Came out stronger. The opposite side. I had a councillor here in Bray. She was absolutely fantastic. And then during that, there was ups and downs with me and the wife and relationship with the kids and stuff, because my head wasn't in a good space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we did some sort of family stuff and relationship stuff and everything. And the help you get is just incredible. It really is. And it's just having that, I guess, I don't want to say bravery. That's the wrong word, but to look at it and say, as you said, the way you worded it, I think was perfect. That your wife would be a widow, your kids wouldn't have a dad. That's what we need to remember.
Yeah.
In that dark time that you're in, it is horrible. It's fucking scary as well. There's no two ways about it. But we do have to try and remember that you're going to leave a lot of broken people behind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But going through that and coming out the other side of it, then I started to throw myself into everything. So NLP, CBT. I did some hypnosis therapy with a guy that was on the show actually as well, Sean from New Me Therapy, to help me with my anxiety. I have a coach that I have weekly calls with now as well. I've become a coach myself and have my own coaching business now. So I think I kind of threw myself into learning everything I can about it, and then to try and move and help others in that way, right? And get the same with you with setting up the club and stuff. What do you think was it, do you reckon, that kind of made you go? Because you said you felt like you failed, which obviously it's not a failure. Do you know what I mean? To have those feelings again and come back in that. But what do you think was it that was making you spiral again, do you think? Was it the dry January? Was it out of a routine? Was it...
Routine is a massive part of my life. I was in a job what can be quite intense and quite full on, and sometimes it's not a job where you can go home and switch off and that's it. Sometimes you pick up your phone and there's an email there at 3 o'clock at night, but I don't mind that. I like to be in routine. And at the time, we'd ended a contract at work, and we were in between contracts, and we were like dog's bodies. So some days we'd be travelling from Durham down to North Yorkshire. We'd be travelling up to Newcastle and beyond. And it was just that uncertainty. And going into Christmas without knowing what was going on. My boss at work, Karen, she's one of the closest people to me. Her son is one of my best friends, and I work with him now. And it's like having a family at work, and it's so close knit. And I'd found out before Christmas that I was losing Karen as my boss, and it's going into like ending the year in a massive shit show. And I was trying not to let it bother us and affect me in such a way. And it wasn't until Catherine said one day we'd been out and we'd had some food. She come back and she just said, "You need to go and speak to your counsellor again, because you're coming out of this in a bad way." And I think if I took her advice there, things would have been better. But because I was so stubborn with myself, and you fail, and Adam, you've let people down, and it wasn't a case of that. It was, my counsellor calls it a tune-up. So my counsellor says now, my phone is always on. If she'd rather have me text her on a Monday morning saying, look, I've had a rough week and I feel quite low.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a session this week? And I might be on the phone 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And she'll say, there you go, there's your tune-up. Off you
I
go.
love that.
I might speak to you in 6 months. But I'm so lucky to have that. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot. Like I said to you before, when I started Man Club, there was nothing like that round here for men. And I always say to my members on a weekend, like, look, lads, I've got a lot on. I've got 2 sons playing football. I've got a daughter that wants to go here. I've got a wife that wants to go and do this. I'm having a quiet weekend, but the inbox is always open and Man Club's always there. Like, my family is so understanding of what I do, and like my 2 boys are 9 years old, and they know that like Dad helps people who sometimes struggle, and if we're out somewhere and I'm on my phone for a couple of minutes, that's fine.
Deadly. I love that, the tune up. That's brilliant. It's a great way of putting it.
The tune-up sessions, yeah.
Yeah. But it is, like, when you think about it, right? Like, as lads, right? We don't, and I say this in every episode, we don't talk, we don't express it, we don't let it out, and how anxiety and depression and other sort of stress, even how it manifests in our say, can come out as aggression, as, I don't know, like, not physical aggression, but you can be just wound up. You can be like a coiled spring ready to snap.
Yeah.
It was interesting listening to you talking about, the routine and the uncertainty and stuff. Because I see a lot of similarities in there, obviously from my anxiety as well. I like knowing what's happening. Do you know what I mean? And I guess I can almost feel your anxiety when you're talking about coming into the end of the year. You're not sure what's happening in the new year. You're losing that person as your boss. It's going to look different. And if you don't know exactly what the plan is, then you probably catastrophize it then in your head and go worst case scenario first, like most of us do.
Yeah.
And then try and work your way back. And then you're just walking around in a daze and stressing and working yourself up over and overthinking everything and worst case scenarios. And so
I'll give you a good example, Matt, of when you talked about uncertainty. So today when I was at work, we've had plans for weeks on my new team. Like, I'm really settled in, and I'm loving being back at work and working properly. And we plan to go out tomorrow afternoon and have a few drinks in Newcastle. Just a couple of sociable drinks, and like, obviously me get to know the team better, and I know the lads anyway, but it's the first time we would have been going out socialising.
Mm-hmm.
And we work today, and I was in a really good mood. Half day at work tomorrow, go out, have a couple of beers, and then back home, because me and Catherine's got plans. Our only child free now for about 6 months, so we had plans on Saturday, but it was going to go out, and I was really looking forward to it. And then all of a sudden, tomorrow got cancelled, and it was like, okay, we're going to postpone it. My mood changed straight away, and I've had it in my head. Like, I've put a little bit of money aside, and obviously it's a little bit tight. There's been no overtime at work, and everyone stresses about money with what's going on in the world at the minute. But I'd put a little bit of money away for that, which it's not a big issue. And we've sort of scrimped and saved, to keep me that money to one side. And then all of a sudden it was like, right, it's not on. But instead of me thinking about the positives, I've saved like 100 quid there, what I was going to go out and spend on Friday. I get to go and see my son Bobby at football training tomorrow night. I get to have an early night. I'm not going to be hungover on Saturday. But all of a sudden it wasn't that. It was like, I'm pissed off. I've had this in my mind, and now it's all changed. And I couldn't get out of that mood. And it took me quite a while to get out of that mood. And looking back now, like, the lads at work must have been thinking, who's this fucking idiot here? He's walking about in a strop because we're not going out tomorrow. But because I've had that drilled into my brain that I'm doing this is my routine for the week. I'm going to go to work, and then we're going to have an early finish, and we're going to go out for drinks. And that was my routine for the day. And it was different to my usual routine, but because I've drilled that into my head, this is your routine for Friday, and then it got cancelled. That was me off and on a tangent.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying, mate. I'm. It's weird. Like, if my wife was listening to you talking now, she'd be like, Jesus Christ, Matt, that's you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We lived in London for a long time, and I had moved over. She was already living there, and I had moved over. So I'm still trying to get me bearings of going from this to this. From a small
Yeah.
seaside town in Ireland to London, like. And we'd make plans to say we'd go out on a on a Friday night. Saying she said, right, we're going to Brick Lane for a curry. And I'm working in Hammersmith, so I have to get one tube here and then a tube to there. And all week I'm sort of planning, right, so if I leave at 5:30 and I walk up and I get that tube to there, that's going to get me there by that time. And then I come out of Liverpool Street and I go left and I walk and into Shoreditch and in town. So I'm like that. I'm planning it in my head.
Everything. Yeah.
And then Friday afternoon, then she might drop a text or send me an email and say, actually, do you know what? We're going to go over to this place near Piccadilly, or we're going to do that. And I'm like, no. We said we were doing this. Don't be changing plans last minute like that. And I would freak the hell out.
Yeah.
That because I've like exactly like you, and I'd have a strap on. And for now, I'm still going out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're still going to have a couple of drinks. We're still going to have a meal. It's just on a different part. But I now only have maybe 4 hours or 3 hours to replan that entire journey and how the night is going to go. And, we were going to go here for a drink, go there for a bite to eat, and then we go up there for another drink. And then that's how we're going to get home. But now we're going over here, and that's different tubes to different stations. And it's just an absolute minefield. Sometimes.
The lads laugh at me. Like, I've got, with us being ex-army, I'm like 5 minutes before. If we're going out somewhere, I'm like, we get there like 5 minutes early. We'll leave the house 5 minutes early. There might be traffic. We'll do this. And Catherine's brother, he's Stephen. He's one of the admins, and he helps us out with Man Club. But he's probably one of the most laid back people I've met. And It's a case of like we're going out with them on Saturday, and I've sent a text in our group saying we're meeting at 3:00 on Saturday. So I know that me and Catherine will go in. We'll get the bus into the local town into Durham. And me and her'll have a drink, and I plan to be walking and meeting them by 3:00. And I guarantee that he won't be there till 4. Guarantee he won't be there till 4:00. And already that triggers me and it winds me up, and he knows it does. And Captain's like, Adam, you're pathetic. Like, you're going on like this, and I will stress and I will start, and I do spit me dummy out in a sense, but it's because I've got that in my head, and that is what we're doing. That is what everyone else is doing, and I think everyone should be singing off the same hymn sheet as myself.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying, buddy. It's and it's mad, isn't it? Like you say, like it's just those little small triggering things, and then somebody like I had to, like, it took a while, I guess, for me to try and be able to explain it to my wife. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be an arsehole, but don't change it, lass. I can't cope with stuff being changed last minute like that. You know, give me a bit of time to build up to it. Do you know what I mean? Or not pulling you out of the routine. Like, and I get, like, a lot of the guys I speak to, and even some of the clients I have now, they talk about it, like the routine element of it. Certainly from a COVID perspective, the stress and the anxiety levels went through the roof with that.
Because, I imagine.
Like, from my experience, and I'm sure you had a similar experience with it, like we had some fairly severe lockdowns here. And I had a lovely routine. I'd, drop my wife and my son off first thing in the morning for school and work. I'd have my daughter for an hour or two before I dropped her at play school, and then I'd go to the office and I'd be there till 1:30, 2:00, and then I'd pick my girl up and I work from home in the afternoon. But it was a nice routine every day. It was lovely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it was bang. The 5 of us are locked away in a house.
Yeah.
My office was in the bedroom at the time, so I'm literally getting out of bed and I'm sitting in the same room from 7:00 in the morning till 7:00 in the evening. You get out of it for 2 or 3 hours and then you're back in bed. So I think from that routine perspective, it just threw everyone off balance completely. Do you know what I mean? And it was during lockdown that my breakdown happened. And then everything else afterwards. But what advice do you think you could give, like, And the funny thing is, right, we know it now, right, and we can kind of joke and laugh about it, right, but it still winds us up. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like a learned pattern we have now, or a learned behaviour we have now. But what kind of advice would you give to somebody who, say, is listening to this and they're like, Jesus, that's me. I do that. What would you kind
Just
of
make
say
sure,
to one of the lads like that?
just make sure that you look after number one. Like I've just said there, like my brother-in-law Stephen, he's totally different to me. Like he's one of my best friends. I love him to pieces, and we get along great. And he's got his way. He probably thinks that I'm a pain in the ass for wanting to be everywhere on time and bang on and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, but just look in that sense, look after number one. Like Catherine, my wife, is so understanding. She is so understanding with stuff, and she might have a laugh at me when she knows I'm getting wound up and call us a few names. But we if we say that we're going out and meeting someone, there's nothing stopping me and Catherine going to do our thing. So anyone listening to this who struggles with like timings and routines, just look after number one. Be that.
Yeah,
Be a
yeah.
bit selfish. Make sure that everyone else will. If you're planning on going out, everyone else will make it. And if they don't, you're still gonna have a good time anyway. Just make sure that you're focusing on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So what's the plans now? So I know I've seen some of the posts you've put up. So there's the badminton night, there's the football, there's the what did you say, the brew and butty mornings, tea and butty mornings
Yeah.
that you do. What's the goal for Man Club? What's the dream, I guess?
So I got asked this question. We went for a meeting a few weeks ago, and someone said like, "What's the end goal for Man Club?" And if someone asked me this around Christmas time, after Christmas time, when Man Club was solely there, we had a brew and butty morning, we had the football, and eventually Man Club will have its own hub, its own place where it's got counsellors, not just for men but for families. I've known firsthand what my mental health issues have, the effect it's had on my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
And everyone needs that little safe space. Everyone needs that little safe space, but there's that much stigma around men's mental health. We've got a slogan at the minute, hashtag smash the stigma, and we are really driving that. Once that stigma is gone with men's mental health, it'll have a ripple effect on kids growing up. My kids know now that it's okay to be upset, it's okay to feel down, and it's okay to talk. More importantly, it's okay to tell someone that you feel sad. I want somewhere eventually where everyone's got somewhere to go to where they can be safe and safely say that they're not feeling okay and get the help that they need and that they deserve.
Brilliant. And I love the way, because I spoke about it with somebody the other day. Actually, we were having this kind of conversation as well. And we look at sort of our age group and men now, and breaking that stigma so that, as you said, has the ripple effect down to kids, so that they don't grow up, I guess, behaving or taking on those learned behaviours like us. Do you know what I mean? I think that's absolutely fantastic, man. And the plan for the hub, so are you looking to try to have like your own kind of office building kind of stuff, or what way do you envisage that?
I'd love like our own office where we can plan. Obviously, you know that we've started paddleboarding out. We do weekly football. We've been so lucky that our local parish council, Brandon Byshottles Parish Council, have helped us with funding, so the football's free. I just want somewhere where we can do group activities, where we go out paddleboarding, we can go mountain biking one day, we've got a couch to 5k on the go, but I want it to be inclusive. I want men to be able to come along first and get the help that like I said, like they need and like they deserve, and then have something inclusive for families where we can do like a family paddleboarding day, so men will come for help. Obviously, the families have gone through hell and high water with the dad, with the husband, with the partner, going through all these mental health struggles, and then that man comes out the end like a shining star. Everything's fine. His life's back on track, and then I want to have something at the end of that where the family go paddleboarding, and that the mum the wife, the kids can sit, like, look at the dad and look at the husband and a partner and say, like, I'm proud of my dad. Look what he's come through. Look how well he's done in life. That's the end goal.
Brilliant. And as I said, look at the beginning, and I'll say it again. It's absolutely fantastic, mate. What you're doing, it really is.
Cheers, mate.
And even you know, it's infectious talking to you, because I can see the passion that you have in it. You know what I mean? And I can see that you're doing this for all the right reasons, just to help. You know, you were in that dark place, and you obviously just don't want anyone to be where you were, I guess, on that 26th of December last year. Do you know what I mean? And it's just
like
incredible.
Looking back, I can't stress enough to anyone who listens to your podcasts, or to anyone who listens to this audio, that, like, I think me and you have both come out at the end of a really, really shitty and dark situation, and there's always help there. There is always help there. My boss at work, I was on about, and my wife constantly tells that they're proud of us, and I'm thinking, like, what the fuck they're proud of? Like all I've done is sat and talked to someone. Like I said to you before this, Matt, you do a fantastic job, and I don't think you realise how much of a good job you do. I had a call with you the other day, and I left that, and I was like skipping about, and I was happy, and I felt like I had a counselling session. But credit to you, mate, for what you do, and for the stuff that you pass on to people. It's fantastic. It's
Thank
fantastic.
You.
I said when I started Man Club, I said if I can help one person, if I can get that one person out of that dark place, and to say you've turned my life around, then I've done my job. But I think Man Club's done that to myself. I think I've turned my own life on and driven my own life on, as well as bringing like a herd of blokes with us. Like,
yeah, and it is. You kind of get. I know for me, like I came out of it and I was like, right, what do I do? And I had started a group on Facebook, lad group, and I think there's 100 odd members in it or something. I'll be honest, I don't really do a hell of a lot with it now. Every now and then, somebody will throw a post up into it. But there's so many other, groups like that on Facebook and stuff that lads are in and stuff. So, and I was pushing that, and I was doing it, and I was like, oh, I need to do something. I need to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, I started, like as I said earlier, like I threw myself into everything. I was trying that I could get my hands on. Different types of therapy, cold water therapy, breathing, qigong, meditation, everything, like listening to mindfulness podcasts, going to bed and stuff at night. And that's when it clicked then. So a lot of the podcasts I was listening to was just like, say, one person talking for 20 minutes, half an hour about, different things with anxiety, with depression, with mental health. And it's always their interpretations and their ideas and their stories and stuff. And I was like, it's great, but for me, it didn't tick the box I was looking for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought I went through a lot of them, and I couldn't find one where it had men coming on just telling genuine stories about mental health. I thought that's what it needs to be. So that's kind of where the podcast came. That was the idea behind it. It was for me, it was, and the thing I always say is that the more men I get to talk about mental health, the more men will talk about mental health. That's kind of as you said, like smashing the stigma, breaking the stigma down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. When we do our sorry, mate, go on.
No.
When we do our Brown Butty mornings, so we get like a big pack of bacon, and a couple of us are in cooking all the bacon. A couple of lads are setting the table up. Get the kettle on, and everyone sits around, and it's normally a case of just sitting having a chat and sitting like a bit of an open chat, a bit of closed group chats, and we have a lady come and brings a therapy dogs along, so we have a lad who's blind who we pick up, and I pick him up before the mornings, and we take him and get him involved with the therapy dogs and stuff, and they're really well, but I was like, something's not right here. Something is not right. What I'm doing, it doesn't feel like I'm doing the correct thing. Although it's good, everyone walks out smiling, everyone walks out happy, everyone's thankful. and say it's beneficial. And then the last one, we sat round and I sort of initiated a discussion, and there was a veteran there who came, who's late 70s, and he sat down and we started talking. Then he triggered off a conversation about his mental health and about what he was going through, and then someone to my right started inputting their story, and it turned into like a massive peer support session where everyone was engaging, everyone was talking, and that for me there was the massive tick in the box what we needed as Man Club to say. And I come on from there, I was like, right, that's it, we've done it now, we know what we're doing. I don't know if anyone who's listening watched Emmerdale, when it was Andy's Man Club actually in the UK. They got involved and they'd done the locking in the wool pack where everyone sat down and they locked the door, and it was like, right, everyone aired the grievances, the mental health issues, the anxieties, what's making them depressed, everything like that. And we sat down and done that, and it was fantastic. And that there is probably the most beneficial thing for me, because people were asking, saying, so what's going on? How did you get out of that situation? I got bad tinnitus. And there was one of the elderly veterans there, and he's saying he hears Morse code, which is tinnitus, but it's also part of a mental health condition. And everyone started bouncing ideas. Kev, who's one of my other admins on Man Club, he wears hearing aids. He suffers really, really badly with tinnitus, and we're talking about listening to different noises and when you go to bed, and different meditations and breathing exercises and stuff. And like I say, everyone just started putting their input into this massive conversation about overall mental health and ways around it. And that was, like I say, that was a massive tick in the box.
Brilliant. No, it is. I just look, I'm beaming talking to you, mate. It's absolutely fantastic. It really is. And this is, like I said before, it's infectious. I can see the love you have for it, and the joy, I guess, it's bringing you as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you do. I find with me anyway, I just get engrossed in this, and it's almost all consuming at some points. But you do kind of become addicted to it, really, don't you? To a certain degree.
Yeah, of course you do.
Because I think you know how bad it can get. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just trying to make sure that nobody hits that spot again, I think, is the most important thing. But then again, as well, like, I mean, look, as you quite rightly said it, right? You know, not only the effects it can have on you, right, but the effects that it'll have on your wife, your kids, your family relationships, that kind of stuff. So if you have 5 or 6 lads that turn up for a brew and butty morning, and you have one of those conversations, and everyone leaves skipping and happy and delighted, that's going to trickle out, isn't it, into their families, into their relationships, and it just it makes everybody better, mate. It does.
Of course it is. One of the things what I'm massively driven on, what Russ, who was my first counsellor, he always said to me that I always look for the bump in the road. I always look for the next issue. I'd overcome one issue, and say if it was a Sunday night and I was like, fuck me, I've got this at work tomorrow, and I was really dreading going to work, but then I'd overcome that, and then I'd go to bed the next night. I'd be like, right, what's happening tomorrow then? What's the issue tomorrow? And I was constantly looking for that bump in the road. Don't look for that bump in the road, because it might never come. You might be looking for something what will never ever turn up. And that was a massive, a really, really big piece of advice what I took away from my counselling session.
That's brilliant. And a great bit of advice as well to share. So thank you for that. That's fantastic. Listen, we're going to wrap it up in a second. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on and learning more about Man Club. I wish you nothing but success, and obviously I'm going to be vocal on the group, and I'll be keeping a close eye and wishing you all the success. I might have to take a trip over to Durham and join you on one of your brewing mornings. Absolutely, 100%. It'd be great. But before I let you go, so I'm starting something new at the end of the show. And I didn't say it to you beforehand because you need to the element of surprise almost, I guess. I'm going to ask you, we're going to wrap up in a second, and we'll close off. I'm going to get you to ask me a question for the next guest, or for another guest, basically. If you've, but I've got a handful of questions I've already gotten off previous guests, and I'm going to ask you one of them now. And the reason I don't tell you is because it's there's no point in me trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Prep you for that like that. It has to be straight off the cuff. It has to be a curveball question thrown at you. So I do apologise for throwing you under the bus a little bit, but like I said, when we finish up the call, I'll get you to give a question for somebody else that comes on the show, basically, right?
Yeah, no problem.
So the question I have for you then is, if you can go back and recollect to the first time you felt anxious, right, or the first time you were anxious, and it's probably gone back years now, right? What happened? How did it make you feel? And now that you're older and more mature, what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
So I suffered with anxiety when I was younger without really knowing and discovering that, and really sitting down and thinking about it too much. Like I said to you at the start, where I'm still the sort of person who'll walk past a cafe, or if my friends are in a pub and they're sat at the back and there's loads of people, I'll be shitting myself out and through. And just make that step. Like, I wish I could just go back and kick myself up the arse and say, like, get in there. Like, I'd go out and make a group of friends when I was younger, and like I've just said, they'd be sat in a pub and I'd be stood outside waiting for them to come out so we'd all go into the next one as a group, and I'd give myself that kick up the arse. And like, the world's not a bad place. The pub you go into isn't a bad place. The cafe you go into isn't a bad place. Like, going into a supermarket isn't bad. It's not gonna affect you. And if anything, it's full of people with smiley faces. Like, the world is not a bad place. So I'd give myself that kick up the arse to go push myself into more difficult situations where I could test myself more.
Brilliant. Love it. Excellent. Listen, Adam, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, buddy. I'm delighted we met and we got chatting.
Yeah, likewise.
And thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. I know it's always easy to talk about it and keep bringing it back up and stuff. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to tell everybody your story. And I have to congratulate you on Man Club, mate. I know it's going to be massive. It is. I can see it in you. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So well done. As I said, we'll definitely be in touch, but I'll have to take a trip over and join you definitely for one of your mornings for sure.
Definitely.
Have a chat with all the boys.
As long as we can come to Ireland.
100%, mate. 100%. Excellent. Listen, thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you. Cheers, Matt.